Walking is a basic human function. We've been ambulating for as long as we can remember, and hopefully we'll keep ambulating for the rest of our lives. In this video, we'll be examining how we walk under normal conditions and exploring how footwear affects our gait. But before that, let's look at the basics of normal human gait. An important consideration of gait is ground reaction forces. According to Sir Isaac Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. During gait, ground reaction forces manifest as a resultant force of our weight.
There are 8 substages of non-pathological gait. At initial contact, the ankle and knee are at a neutral position, and the hip is flexed 20 degrees. The ground reaction forces will be anterior to both the hip and knee axes and posterior to the ankle. During loading response, the ankle plantar flexes to 5 degrees and the knee flexes to 15 degrees with no change at the hip. The ground reaction forces are anterior to the hip, posterior to the knee and ankle axes. Throughout mid-stance, the ankle dorsiflexes to 5 degrees, the knee is flexed 5 degrees, and the hip is neutral. The ground reaction forces pass anterior to the hip and ankle axes. In terminal stance, the MTP joint flexes to 30 degrees dorsiflexion, 20 degrees extension at the hip, and 5 degrees flexion at the knee, with 10 degrees dorsiflexion at the ankle. The ground reaction forces go through the MTP joint and are anterior to both the knee and ankle, but posterior to the hip axis. During pre-swing, the MTP joint is dorsiflexed to 60 degrees. The hip is at 10 degrees extension, and the knee is at 40 degrees flexion. The ankle quickly plantar flexes to 15 degrees. The ground reaction forces go through the MTP and run posterior to the hip and knee axes and anterior to the ankle.
During initial swing, the hip flexes to 15 degrees, the knee reaches its peak flexion moment at 60 degrees, and the ankle moves to 5 degrees of plantar flexion in order to get floor clearance. During mid-swing, the hip flexes to 25 degrees, the knee moves to 25 degrees of flexion, and the ankle returns to its original neutral position. Terminal swing prepares the limb for initial contact. The hip, knee, and ankle all return to their original positions.
The 6 determinants of gait, as first introduced by Saunders, Inman, and Eberhard, affect energy expenditure and the mechanics of walking. The 6 determinants of gait are as follows: pelvic rotation, pelvic tilt, knee flexion after initial contact, foot and ankle motion, knee motion, and lateral pelvic motion.
High-heeled shoes, although aesthetically pleasing, have been shown to negatively affect gait kinematics, particularly at the ankle joint, which is excessively plantar flexed. This causes the center of body mass to displace anteriorly, producing a sensation of falling forward. Heel gait increases the metabolic cost of gait, resulting in an increased muscle fatigue. Foot stability is also affected because of the rapid inversion motion of the foot during stance phase and may cause ankle sprains and/or falls. Additionally, wearing heels can result in lower back pain due to the increased lumbar spine curvature and a shortened Achilles tendon, all of which cause decreased stride length and therefore decreased walking speed and mobility. Some additional compensatory mechanisms from wearing heels include excessive pelvic rotation and lateral hip swaying. Finally, wearing high-heeled shoes places the subject at an increased predisposition towards osteoarthritis at the knee, as some studies have shown that there is an increased knee varus torque, which also affects the lateral musculature around the knee to help balance this increased torque.
Flip-flops are our favorite choice of footwear for beach days, hot days, or days when you're just too lazy to tie your shoes. However, although convenient, many studies have shown that over time, flip-flop usage might inadvertently cause damage to the foot and hip. The decreased contact angle of the foot at heel strike, along with the thinner sole and increased velocity of heel strike, result in peak GRF. These factors also contribute to early pronation during loading response. The lack of ankle support exacerbates any effects of tibial rotatory deformities. For example, ERD or pes cavus will cause the calcaneus to roll into varus. IRD or pes planus will result in the calcaneus rolling into valgus. This can increase stress on the ligaments of the subtalar and talocrural joints.
During barefoot gait, the forefoot is spread under load. Regular barefoot ambulators possess increased width and flattening of the foot, and a longer medial longitudinal arch during loading response. They also show shorter step and stride length, as well as an increase in cadence and propulsive force. Bare feet are generally more everted, adducted, externally rotated, and experience more torsion than shod feet. At initial contact, a barefoot presents more plantar flexion than dorsiflexion in comparison to athletic footwear. At terminal stance, there is reduced ankle plantar flexion range of motion and greater ankle eversion.